Chapter 2. Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz. Ruth the Moabitess said to Naomi, "Let me now go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after him in whose sight I shall find favor." She said to her, "Go, my daughter." She went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and she happened to come to the portion of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the family of Elimelech. Behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said to the reapers, "The Lord be with you." They answered him, "The Lord bless you." Then said Boaz to his servant who was set over the reapers, "Whose young lady is this?" The servant who was set over the reapers answered, "It is the Moabite lady who came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab." She said, "Please let me glean and gather after the reapers among the sheaves." So she came and has continued even from the morning until now, except that she stayed a little in the house. Then said Boaz to Ruth, "Don't you hear, my daughter? Don't go to glean in another field, neither pass from here, but abide here fast by my maidens. Let your eyes be on the field that they reap, and go after them. Haven't I charged the young men that they shall not touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels, and drink of that which the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face, and bowed herself to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your sight, that you should take knowledge of me, seeing I am a foreigner?" Boaz answered her, "It has fully been shown me all that you have done to your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father and your mother, and the land of your birth, and have come to a people that you didn't know before. The Lord will recompense your work, and a full reward will be given you of the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you are come to take refuge." Then she said, "Let me find favor in your sight, my lord, because you have comforted me, and because you have spoken kindly to your handmaid, though I am not as one of your handmaidens." At mealtime Boaz said to her, "Come here and eat of the bread, and dip your morsel in the vinegar." She sat beside the reapers, and they passed her parched grain, and she ate and was satisfied. When she was risen up again to glean, Boaz commanded his young men, saying, "Let her glean even among the sheaves, and don't reproach her. Also pull out some for her from the bundles, and leave it, and let her glean, and don't rebuke her." So she gleaned in the field until evening, and she beat out that which she had gleaned, and it was about an ephah of barley. She took it up, and went into the city, and her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned, and she brought forth and gave to her that which she had left after she was satisfied. Her mother-in-law said to her, "Where have you gleaned today, and where have you worked? Blessed be he who did take knowledge of you." She had shown her mother-in-law with whom she had worked, and said, "The man's name with whom I work today is Boaz." Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, "Blessed be he of the Lord, who has not left off his kindness to the living and to the dead." Naomi said to her, "The man is a close relative to us, one of our near kinsmen." Ruth the Moabitess said, "Yes, he said to me, 'You shall keep close by my young men until they have ended all my harvest.'" Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, "It is good, my daughter, that you go out with his maidens, and that they not let you go into any other field." So she kept close by the maidens of Boaz to glean to the end of the barley harvest and of wheat harvest, and she lived with her mother-in-law.
When it was determined that we should sail for Italy, they delivered Paul and certain other prisoners to a centurion named Julius of the Augustan band. Embarking in a ship of Adramyttium, which was about to sail to places on the coast of Asia, we put to sea, Aristarchus, a Macedonian of Thessalonica, being with us. The next day we touched at Sidon. Julius treated Paul kindly, and gave him permission to go to his friends and refresh himself. Putting to sea from there, we sailed under the lee of Cyprus, because the winds were contrary. When we had sailed across the sea which is off Cilicia and Pamphylia, we came to Myra, a city of Lycia. There the centurion found a ship of Alexandria sailing for Italy, and he put us on board. When we had sailed slowly many days, and had come with difficulty opposite Cnidus, the wind not allowing us further, we sailed under the lee of Crete, opposite Salmone. With difficulty sailing along it, we came to a certain place called Fair Havens, near the city of Lasea. When much time was spent, and the voyage was now dangerous, because the fast had now already gone by, Paul admonished them, and said to them, Sirs, I perceive that the voyage will be with injury and much loss, not only of the cargo and the ship, but also of our lives. But the centurion gave more heed to the master and to the owner of the ship than to those things which were spoken by Paul. Because the haven was not suitable to winter in, the majority advised to put to sea from there, if by any means they could reach Phoenix, and winter there, which is a port of Crete, looking northeast and southeast. When the south wind blew softly, supposing that they had obtained their purpose, they weighed anchor and sailed along Crete close to shore. But after no long time there beat down from it a tempestuous wind, which is called Euroclydon. When the ship was caught, and couldn't face the wind, we gave way to it, and were driven along. Running under the lee of a small island called Clauda, we were able with difficulty to secure the boat. When they had hoisted it up, they used cables to reinforce the ship. Fearing that they would run aground on the Syrtis sandbars, they lowered the sea anchor, and so were driven. As we labored exceedingly with the storm, the next day they began to throw things overboard. On the third day, they threw out the ship's tackle with their own hands. When neither sun nor stars shone on us for many days, and no small tempest pressed on us, all hope that we would be saved was now taken away. When they had been a long time without food, Paul stood up in the midst of them and said, Sirs, you should have listened to me and not have set sail from Crete, and have gotten this injury and loss. Now I exhort you to cheer up, for there will be no loss of life among you, but only of the ship. For there stood by me this night an angel, belonging to the God whose I am and whom I serve, saying, Don't be afraid, Paul. You must stand before Caesar. Behold, God has granted you all those who sail with you. Therefore, sirs, cheer up, for I believe God, that it will be just as it has been spoken to me, but we must run aground on a certain island. But when the 14th night had come, as we were driven back and forth in the Adriatic Sea, about midnight the sailors surmised that they were drawing near to some land. They took soundings and found 20 fathoms. After a little while they took soundings again and found 15 fathoms. Fearing that we would run aground on rocky ground, they let go 4 anchors from the stern and wished for daylight. As the sailors were trying to flee out of the ship and had lowered the boat into the sea, pretending that they would lay out anchors from the bow, Paul said to the centurion and to the soldiers, Unless these stay in the ship, you can't be saved. Then the soldiers cut away the ropes of the boat and let her fall off. When the day was coming on, Paul begged them all to take some food, saying, This day is the 14th day that you wait and continue fasting, having taken nothing. Therefore I beg you to take some food, for this is for your safety. For there will not a hair perish from the head of any of you. When he had said this, and had taken bread, he gave thanks to God in the presence of all, and he broke it and began to eat. Then they all cheered up, and they also took food. We were in all, in the ship, 276 souls. When they had eaten enough, they lightened the ship, throwing out the wheat into the sea. When it was day, they didn't recognize the land, but they noticed a certain bay with a beach, and they decided to try to drive the ship onto it. Casting off the anchors, they left them in the sea, at the same time untying the rudder ropes. Hoisting up the foresail to the wind, they made for the beach. But coming to a place where 2 seas met, they ran their vessel aground. The bow struck and remained immovable, but the stern began to break up by the violence of the waves. The soldiers' counsel was to kill the prisoners, so that none of them would swim out and escape. But the centurion, desiring to save Paul, stopped them from their purpose, and commanded that those who could swim should throw themselves overboard first to go to the land, and the rest, some on planks, and some on other things from the ship. So it happened that they all escaped safely to the land.
Chapter 37. Zedekiah, the son of Josiah, reigned as king, instead of Coniah, the son of Jehoiakim, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, made king in the land of Judah. But neither he, nor his servants, nor the people of the land, did listen to the words of the Lord, which he spoke by the prophet Jeremiah. Zedekiah the king sent Jehukal the son of Shelemiah, and Zephaniah the son of Maaseiah, the priest, to the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Pray now to the Lord our God for us. Now Jeremiah came in and went out among the people, for they had not put him into prison. Pharaoh's army was come forth out of Egypt, and when the Chaldeans who were besieging Jerusalem heard news of them, they broke off from Jerusalem. Then came the word of the Lord to the prophet Jeremiah, saying, Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, Thus shall you tell the king of Judah, who sent you to me to inquire of me. Behold, Pharaoh's army, which is come forth to help you, shall return to Egypt into their own land. The Chaldeans shall come again, and fight against this city, and they shall take it, and burn it with fire. Thus says the Lord, Don't deceive yourselves, saying, The Chaldeans shall surely depart from us, for they shall not depart. For though you had struck the whole army of the Chaldeans who fight against you, and there remained but wounded men among them, yes, they would rise up, every man in his tent, and burn this city with fire. It happened that, when the army of the Chaldeans was broken up from Jerusalem for fear of Pharaoh's army, then Jeremiah went forth out of Jerusalem to go into the land of Benjamin, to receive his portion there in the midst of the people. When he was in the gate of Benjamin, a captain of the guard was there, whose name was Erijah, the son of Shelemiah, the son of Hananiah. And he laid hold on Jeremiah the prophet, saying, You are falling away to the Chaldeans. Then Jeremiah said, It is false, I am not falling away to the Chaldeans. But he didn't listen to him. So Erijah laid hold on Jeremiah, and brought him to the princes. The princes were angry with Jeremiah, and struck him, and put him in prison in the house of Jonathan the scribe, for they had made that the prison. When Jeremiah was come into the dungeon house, and into the cells, and Jeremiah had remained there many days, then Zedekiah the king sent and fetched him, and the king asked him secretly in his house, and said, Is there any word from the Lord? Jeremiah said, There is. He also said, You shall be delivered into the hand of the king of Babylon. Moreover, Jeremiah said to King Zedekiah, Wherein have I sinned against you, or against your servants, or against this people, that you have put me in prison? Where now are your prophets who prophesied to you, saying, The king of Babylon shall not come against you, nor against this land? Now please hear, my lord the king. Please let my supplication be presented before you, that you not cause me to return to the house of Jonathan the scribe, lest I die there. Then Zedekiah the king commanded, and they committed Jeremiah into the court of the guard, and they gave him daily a loaf of bread out of the baker's street, until all the bread in the city was spent. Thus Jeremiah remained in the court of the guard.
Psalm 10. Why do you stand far off, Yahweh? Why do you hide yourself in times of trouble? In arrogance the wicked hunt down the weak. They are caught in the schemes that they devise. For the wicked boast of his heart's cravings. He blesses the greedy and condemns Yahweh. The wicked in the pride of his face has no room in his thoughts for God. His ways are prosperous at all times. He is haughty, and your laws are far from his sight. As for all his adversaries, he sneers at them. He says in his heart, I shall not be shaken. For generations I shall have no trouble. His mouth is full of cursing, deceit, and oppression. Under his tongue is mischief and iniquity. He lies in wait near the villages. From ambushes he murders the innocent. His eyes are secretly set against the helpless. He lurks in secret as a lion in his ambush. He lies in wait to catch the helpless. He catches the helpless when he draws him in his net. The helpless are crushed, they collapse, they fall under his strength. He says in his heart, God has forgotten. He hides his face, he will never see it. Arise, Yahweh, God, lift up your hand. Don't forget the helpless. Why does the wicked condemn God and say in his heart, God won't call me into account? But you do see trouble and grief. You consider it to take it into your hand. You help the victim and the fatherless. Break the arm of the wicked. As for the evil man, seek out his wickedness until you find none. Yahweh is king forever and ever.
the nations will perish out of his land. Yahweh, you have heard the desire of the humble. You will prepare their heart. You will cause your ear to hear, to judge the fatherless and the oppressed, that man who is of the earth may terrify no more.